Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp. Welcome back to my channel. So we're going to be doing a couple of videos for Christmas in July. I'm going to start by creating two really fun cards using this stamp set here called Oh What Fun. It is by Crafter's Companion. I'm not sure if it's still available or not. I think I bought this last year or possibly the year before. You can see that I've already stamped, coloured and fussy cut them. I'm going to show you a little bit of footage a little bit later in the video. But the first thing we're going to do is create the card bases and then create our background as well. So I'm creating two cards in this video, and it's a little time consuming, but it's something a little bit more fun because the images are fun. It's a really great size. So I'm creating an A2 card base here, or my size of of an A2 card. So what I like to do is just to make measurements and mats and layers and things just a little bit easier, I like to cut my A4 cardstock down first of all. So I do cut it to 11.5 inches by 8 inches, and then I can create two card bases with that, and my card sizes are going to be 4 inches by 5.75 inches. I used a piece of red cardstock. I've got some of the Hunky Dory Adorable Scoreable that I am just sort of working my way through because I want to just use up some of the coloured cardstock that I have. I like the idea of having a coloured card base, and because this is coloured only on one side, it means the inside of my card is going to be white. So I've created those card bases, popped them to one side. I cut myself a piece of cardstock, white cardstock that I'm going to stamp onto, and this will be 5.5 inches by 3.75 inches. And I've taken one of the new stamps that I purchased, I showed you in my last haul video, and this is one of the ones where you can turn it to create sort of that full plaid background. And I thought this would work really nicely for a Christmas background, certainly in the colours that I'm going to be using. So the easiest way to use a stamp like this is to cut a square piece of cardstock, because of the way that you rotate it 90 degrees each time you've stamped it to get that full background. It just makes it so much easier. Everything lines up. Because I'd already cut my cardstock down to fit onto my A6 card base, I literally stamped it one way in the green, then rotated it 180 degrees, stamped it again, and that kind of lined those two pieces up nicely. And then you will see me take the stamp off and kind of reposition it to where I think it needs to be. So for the colours, I used Rustic Wilderness Distress ink. I'm pretty sure this was either Barn Door or a slightly darker red. I can't remember 100% what the red colour was. I will bring in a little bit of tumbled glass just for a slightly different colour, and then to match what I've coloured the elf in, and then we're going to do a little heat embossing as well. So you can see that I'm creating two of these backgrounds at the same time. I got two of these sticky mats. Again, I showed you those in a recent haul, and they have been great for a project like this. The only thing I needed to be careful with was any ink that was picked up from the edges. Where that ink sat on the surface of the sticky mat, it has stayed wet. So every time that I've stamped, you've seen me just wipe off that stamp and kind of start again, basically. I did do one previous to the two that you're seeing here, and I did try to wipe those sides off, and then I ended up getting some of that ink onto my background. So I just left it, and I literally just wiped it down with a cloth each time I added some new ink to it. You've seen me ink these up a few times and stamp it a few times just to get that really great colour. It's not a perfect stamp, to be honest, but I actually really like how this looks. It gives it just a little bit of texture. It's not an absolutely perfect background, and with the stamp that it is, I wouldn't really expect it to be, but it is actually a really great quality stamp. I've really enjoyed using it and creating the backgrounds here. So I will try to leave a link to it in the description box down below for you. But yeah, I really enjoyed sort of creating these backgrounds. I've got a few of these now. And yeah, I think they've just sort of come out really, really well with the mats. Again, it's easy just to create a couple of these backgrounds in one go. Again, in terms of the whole turning it to get that full pattern, like I said, the easiest way to do that is to have a square piece of cardstock in there, probably 6 by 6, if not bigger, if that's what you want to do, to be able to sort of use the magnets and things to hold your cardstock down. But that's literally all you need to do, and you just keep turning it 4 times and just repeating the process. So like I said, this last one, I decided to do a little heat embossing just to see really how this one came out. So I used my anti-static powder to begin with because obviously some of that ink is going to be wet. Some of the embossing powder does get stuck to a few other areas, but it was easy to knock it off, or I just left it, to be honest. I was really happy with how this did turn out. So I'm going to pour on the embossing powder onto this one. I'm not going to melt it just yet. I'm going to do the second one to begin with, but I wanted to get that embossing powder on there. I'm just using some gold embossing powder. This one's by Paper Mania. It's the one that I've used pretty much since I started card making, to be honest. I'm pretty sure it's still that same tub there as well. And I'm pretty sure I picked it up from the range, and it's a really inexpensive tub of embossing powder, but you do get quite a lot out of it because you are pouring any of the excess back into your container. So again, just doing the second one here, and you can see me taking this off. I'm kind of bending the mat back and then peeling it off. That's the easiest way that I found without sort of ripping or doing any damage to your cardstock. I am using, I think this is some Nina cardstock. It's a little thinner maybe than what I would have liked to have used for this background, just when it came to doing all the heat embossing and things on here using my heat tool. But a really great way of making sure that your cardstock doesn't warp too much. It's going to warp a little bit. You can pop it under something heavy when you've melted all the embossing powder, or just make sure that your heat gun is heated up really well to begin with. Just leave it for a couple seconds to really sort of get that temperature up, and it shouldn't then kind of blow any of your embossing powder off, and it should melt a lot quicker. So these were already cut down to size, like I said at the beginning. So I'm just going to glue these flat. And the reason I've done these flat was, again, because they were slightly warped, being a thinner cardstock. I didn't want to create any kind of ripples in the sides, where if I'd used some foam, you would have seen that. So that is the cards and the background. So now I'm just going to play the footage that I recorded of me colouring in my two elves. So I've sped this up like 10 times. Absolutely don't work this quickly, but I wanted to leave this in just in case anyone's interested. Obviously you can skip past it, and I'm going to pop the colours on the screen as well for what I used. So I haven't actually done a video on this yet, but I have purchased a set of the Ohuhu markers, alcohol markers. If you saw my recent destash videos, I have put up for sale. I do still have them, my Copic markers that I purchased, and the Hunky Dory Prism craft markers as well. I wanted just a slightly better range, so I purchased these. I did get the big pack of like 300 markers. I potentially will do a video. I haven't actually put them away. They're still in the bag at the moment, but I'm just sort of trying to get used to them. So I do want to bring in just a little bit more colour in, if I can, into my videos again, just to kind of practice blending and the blends that I want to put together, and that. So I stamped this twice onto, again, some Nina cardstock with some Memento black tuxedo ink, because that is an alcohol friendly ink. You can see that I just trimmed them in half because one was the opposite way to the other, so I thought this would be easier. And then within that pack of markers, you do get a little mat that you can put underneath your colouring to stop it bleeding through. So basically I've just taped, using some washi tape, the pieces onto that little mat, and it made for a really great surface. Actually, it meant I could move it around a little bit better, and nothing bled through onto my craft mat, which was really great as well. I haven't found that's been an issue so far using them, but obviously I want to be a little bit cautious. But I thought it was really great being able to tape these down onto this, because I can just kind of slide the mat around as I need to, and then both of those pictures, both of those rectangles are kind of kept in place, which I thought was really great. So I really enjoyed using them for this. It was a really great chance to pull out some of the colours, and like I said, I've put the colours onto the bottom of the screen. You can see there for out all the markers that I did use. And then I just went ahead and fussy cut these around as much as possible, just to leave that nice little white border. But yeah, I absolutely love how these ones turned out. So now we can get back to our card. So the actual stamping and colouring was the first thing that I did. And then obviously I went into actually making the card, but I wanted to kind of put it in there where it made a little bit more sense. So now, again, like I said, this is the Hunky Dory cardstock. I think they have new colours as of this year, I believe it is. This is just some old stuff that I've got from being on their design team. So they do have a white core and they are white on the back. And again, I actually think that's great for making the card bases. The card bases are nice and sturdy. It's a nice sturdy weight. If you have coloured on both sides, you can just pop a piece of white cardstock in here if you wanted to. And you see me there just stamp a sentiment on the inside along with just some of those presents. Again, just using some of the stamps that came in that Oh What Fun stamp set. So I do need a sentiment for the front. So I'm going to heat emboss bringing you some Christmas cheer onto some black cardstock. And again, just to bring in that gold as well from the background, I've just poured over some of that gold embossing powder. So I used my anti-static powder tool again, just to make sure that the powder doesn't stick anywhere I don't want it to, and you can read the sentiment nice and clearly. Then I stamped in the Versamark clear sticky ink, and then again just melted that gold embossing powder. So I'm going to trim these down just into little sentiment strips. This one here, you do see me kind of come back and keep trimming a little bit off the top of this. It ended up being really not particularly even. I could have re-stamped it and everything, but I had put everything away at this point, so, and I really didn't want to waste it. So you know, at the end of the day, our cards are handmade, and they're not every single bit of it is going to be absolutely perfect. So, you know, don't just dismiss some ink or put it in the bin or redo it or whatever, you know, if it isn't sort of quite perfect, really. Again, it's a handmade card, and you know, there are going to be some small imperfections. So at this point I thought I was finished with this card, but I decided that I wanted the elf just to stand out against the background just a little bit more, since we do have a lot of similar colours between how I've coloured the elf and then the inks that I've used for the background. So the easiest way to do that is to add some vellum. It does just help create a small barrier sort of between the background and what you've got in the foreground. So you can see it now between the two. It just really helps to lift it a little bit. I'm going to put it on some foam as well, which is going to help, but just having that little bit of vellum, you're not hiding anything that you've created in your background, any, you know, hard work that you've done with your background. But like I said, it does just kind of separate the two quite nicely, and this is probably one of the most common ways that I personally like to use vellum on my cards. So like I said, I'm going to pop some foam onto the back of our elf, again just for the same reasons, really, just to help it bring it off that background, and add a little bit of separation then between those. I'm putting a few of these circle foam pieces onto our elf just to make sure we don't have any sagging in different areas, and then I'm going to pop this piece onto the vellum, and then I'm going to add some glue onto the back of the vellum, but only in the areas behind where the elf is, because otherwise you will see that vellum the glue, sorry, through the vellum. So the sides aren't actually stuck down necessarily on the vellum, but obviously there's a lot of surface area there which is going to be glued down onto our background. So I'm just going to do the same for the other card. And so normally in my videos, I don't always tend to create two cards exactly the same, but recently I have started to do that just because you have got all of the supplies out. Why not create that second card? You know, sometimes it really depends what kind of card design you're creating. You do get those ones which are a lot more time consuming and you wouldn't necessarily create a second card. It is more of a, you know, an individual card, but with a card like this, I mean, doing the cards and the backgrounds and the heat embossing and things really didn't take any longer, to be honest. The colouring obviously did a little bit, but again, the way that I coloured it was just to have you know, I'm doing the same bit on each of those stamped images. So to finish the card, I'm going to add some pale gold Nuvo drops just around the elf. And yeah, that finishes it for these cards. So I'll give you just a little bit of a closer look. I really love how these turned out. I have got 4 videos showing you 4 different kinds of cards that you can create, again, as my way of just sort of participating in Christmas in July. So with this one, I would say it's kind of a little bit more time consuming, but that kind of fun element with a little bit of colouring with alcohol markers. So yeah, I really enjoyed these. I hope you like the cards. Let me know in the comment section down below. If you don't want to miss out on any of my other ones, like I said, I got 4 cards, and then I do have a Christmas planner video as well, a little project. So if you don't want to miss out on those, hit the subscribe button so you get notified then when I do upload new videos. I'm trying to get back in to my at least 1 video a week being uploaded onto my channel. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell, and yeah, that's going to be it for this first video. So thanks very much for watching, and happy crafting.